to this edition of Refined Relaxation, brought to you by Paul's Cigar Lounge. I'm Paul, this is John, and this edition we're again talking about some of the governmental issues, kind of our 4th of July series as we talk about some of the history of our government and involvement in cigars. And so we thought it'd be appropriate, John, to talk a little bit about some of the things in government and cigars that are happening today. But first, I see you have a drink prepared for me. What do we have, John?
Right, so since we're talking more modern issues with alcohol and tobacco, I figured we'd probably be talking about Cuba quite a bit. So this is daiquiri. It's on our summer menu as spice daiquiri.
And a little sugar on the rim there, I can see. So what do we have in a daiquiri? It's a rum drink if it's Cuban.
Yep, so this one actually we do a house-infused spiced bourbon rum mixture.
Ooh, that is, it's fruity, it's sweet, it's not boozy at all, it's really well balanced. This is, and a little bit of citrus there.
Yeah, and then the other ingredients in daiquiri are lime and syrup, so we use mango syrup in this one.
That's a great drink. If you've not had a real daiquiri made right, you are missing out. It is a phenomenal summer drink. John, what do you have for yourself?
Well, this one is, if we had the right ingredients, this would be a Cuba Libre. And we've talked about it before. Cuba Libre is trademarked by Bacardi. But that's essentially what this is. Flor de Caña rum, Coke, and a little bit of lime juice.
Very good. Also a traditional Cuban drink. We're still smoking the cigars we did in the last episode. It's no secret we do a couple of these at a time. And so I've still got the Henry Clay, which, as you can see, has a perfect burn. I haven't touched it up in the slightest, holding its ash very well, and continues to be a delightful smoke. So John, and you're still working on your CAO, also a great cigar. I've had them. But drinks, and let's talk about government, and you know, we remember the days of Prohibition. We celebrate it every year at Paul's Cigar Lounge. We celebrate it here because Nebraska had a significant role in Prohibition. So John, what's up with that? How do Nebraskans, I don't think of it as a hotbed of the Christian Women's Temperance Union or the Prohibition force, why Nebraska?
You know, I'm not sure exactly why they got this landmark here, but Nebraska was I believe it was the 36th state to sign on for ratifying Prohibition. The last state needed to tip the bill.
Two-thirds majority of two-thirds of states had to approve it. So we were the state that put it over Prohibition, the amendment over the top. Then with the Volstead Act, it took effect a year later. And so every January we celebrate our Prohibition because thanks to us good folks in Nebraska, we were the ones who put it over the top and outlawed booze.
And as we know, Prohibition was an astounding success.
Yeah, one of those things where you kind of went a few years. And think about it here in Nebraska. You had the farmers making corn that was used to make whiskey. You had most everybody enjoying it. Obviously, there were people who didn't think it was a good thing. And it was just a recipe for all kinds of bad things. Difficult for enforcement, a great opportunity for the criminal element to take advantage of what now was not legal. And so it just didn't work out so good. And frankly, cigars have a history in Nebraska as well. In fact, right here in Hastings, we have a pretty significant cigar history here. Hastings was a cigar town.
That's right. At one time, it was known as the Nebraska capital of cigars. The cigar-making capital of Nebraska.
There we got it.
If you put the words right in the right order, it's one of those things.
I knew you'd get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right across the street, actually, now an empty lot because the building burned down. It's not an empty lot, it's a beautiful city park. But the building that was there burned down, and that was the home of Kip Cigars.
Right. And since it's a city park, you can't smoke cigars there.
Or anything else. But the fact is, at one time, they were rolling as many as 5 million cigars every year with 125 rollers. I told that to Manuel Quesada, owner of Quesada Cigars, and he was here with us, and he looked at me funny and said, "How many cigars? 5.9." He said, "How many rollers did they have?" I said, 125. He took out his phone and put the calculator in, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, yeah, that's about right." And so I think it's probably pretty accurate that they rolled millions of cigars a year there at the Kip Cigar Factory just across the street. There were several other cigar companies here at one time. So you can just picture the bales of tobacco coming in on the railroad and then coming across the street to get rolled into cigars. Now, cigar smoking of late hasn't been as popular. Cigars kind of gave way to cigarettes because of mechanization and the ease of making them, plus all the GIs had them in their rations and got hooked on them, and we're not fans of cigarettes here, Pauls. Don't think they're very healthy for you, but it certainly put the cigar business out of business, and that was the death of cigars here in Hastings. And lately, tobacco has been, well, a bit vilified, wouldn't you say, John?
Yeah, it certainly has. Whether it's taxes on tobacco, a lot of them with the intended purpose of preventing minors from smoking, or just the Clean Air Act. Well-intentioned, even us smokers kind of appreciated it from time to time. But what was it, around 2009, Nebraska actually enacted the Clean Air Act, which any enclosed space that was open to public traffic, you couldn't smoke in.
Or employees. So even in your office, if it was any employees there, only in your private home, you could have a private club. If it had no employees, you weren't able to smoke. And that had an exception for cigars. So how is it that one of the two questions I get here often, John and I have to field these questions, are number one, how is it you get to smoke in here? And number two, what about Cuban cigars? So we'll come back to Cuba in a second. But how is it we get to smoke in here, John?
Well, they actually had a little bit of back and forth with that about the time you were trying to open.
There was a lot of drama when we were opening.
So the original Clean Air Act provided an exemption for cigar bars.
Yep.
And then around 2014,
yep,
it kind of went through the courts, and they decided that was unfair. It created a different class.
Yes.
Basically, of businesses. And so that part of the law was actually struck down. And right as Paul was trying to open up, they declared that cigar bars were illegal.
Yep, those were fun days. Sleepless nights, fees for attorneys to get legal advice, even though we had gotten legal advice previously that the Supreme Court wasn't going to turn it over, or if they did, they'd have to throw out the whole law. Won't get into all that story. It was a mess for months, from August of 2014 all the way until, thankfully, it was delayed and it wasn't implemented. They didn't shut everybody down, but it was illegal for a while, as the Supreme Court then kind of went back and forth, reversing itself. But it gave time for the legislature to come into session in January of 2015. And I believe it was one of the first, if not the first law passed and signed by then new Governor Ricketts, who signed it with emergency orders in February. So it took effect as soon as he signed it. And it changed us from a cigar bar. So we're not a bar. That's how we can smoke here. Can't smoke in bars in Nebraska, but you can smoke in retail cigar shops.
Yep.
So that's what we are. We're a retail cigar shop. We are not a bar. Kind of look like a bar, kind of act like a bar,
Yep.
kind of sound like a bar, but we're not a bar. We're a retail cigar shop, and there's a bunch of rules that go with it. But that's why we can smoke here at Paul's Cigar Lounge, which is a retail tobacco shop, not a bar. But that's why we can smoke here in Nebraska and enjoy our cigars. And we can have a liquor license, and so you can enjoy a nice whiskey with your cigar. So, talk to us, John. Why can't, and the second question we get now, we've got to answer this question. What's the deal with Cuban cigars? Can we sell them? Can we get them? Can you own them? Is it legal? Are you going to get arrested if you have a Cuban cigar? What's up with Cuba?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of the Cuban embargo is a bit of a political football. They toss it back and forth, it seems like, every time a new president's elected. But since Kennedy was in office, the commercial sale of Cuban products has been illegal the entire time. So even when the Cuban embargo was relaxed a little bit for personal use, we still couldn't sell anything Cuban. cigars, or rum is another popular one people want to get a hold of. And so there was a little time where it was basically unlimited personal use you could bring back if you went to Cuba or went to Central America, Mexico, whatever, on vacation. But that's actually has been restricted to really zero now. So you can't bring them back, you can't bring them in through another country, you can't order them through the mail, and I'm a little surprised it hasn't changed back yet, but I think there's a lot of political dealings, especially with Florida being such a hotly contested state.
Well, and that's it. The Cuban lobby is strong. And again, under the Obama administration, it was relaxed. We could bring in basically Cuban cigars like you can bring in any other cigars as long as they are for personal use, no trade. But then it tightened up. Now you can't, and it's restricted more. Now, will the new administration, will that change again? Who knows? We'd like it to. But the fact of the matter is, at this point, no, can't sell them, can't bring them in for trade, and really can't bring them in at all now, even for personal use. Though we think that new administration might relax things there, but who knows with the strong Cuban lobby, particularly in a swing state, the importance of Florida, who knows what's going to be. But there is some new things on the horizon, and I just read in just the last few days that there is an exemption for the importation of Cuban agricultural products grown by independent farmers. So in other words, not from state-run industry. So, can the United States import tobacco, not cigars? Because the cigar industry has been nationalized, it's run by the Cuban government. But can they bring in tobacco grown by independent farmers, and could it be rolled in America as Cuban tobacco cigars? And J.C. Newman has applied for that. It's really the only cigar company that has cigar factories here in the United States, out of Ybor City, part of Tampa, Florida. So who knows? They're trying. We might be able to get cigars rolled in the U.S. with tobacco grown by independent farmers in Cuba under that kind of loophole or that exception where independent farmers could grow it and bring it in. Now, will that be the best quality tobacco from Cuba? Who knows? It'll certainly be Cuban tobacco. And remember that tobacco is an agricultural product. Not every year is a great year for tobacco, just like for wine and grapes. So it's not quite that easy. And then will the embargo go away? I hope we can figure it out. If we can normalize relations with countries like Vietnam and China, you'd think we could figure out a way to get a little bit more normalized relations with a country that's only 90 miles away from Cuba. So when you're in Key West, you're closer to Cuba than you are to Miami. Go figure. And you'd think maybe we could work that out, but we'll see. So what else is the government doing? The government is not happy about tobacco, and it's really causing some problems for cigars, isn't it, John?
Yeah, so one of the things that has happened lately is that they've put cigar regulation under the U.S. FDA, I believe.
Yep.
FDA. And so cigars have always been separate from cigarettes and other tobacco products like e-cigarettes, vapes, whatever.
Chewing tobacco.
Yeah. And so they actually put cigars, lumped them in with cigarettes. And there's a bill that comes up in the U.S., either the House or the Senate, always brought by the Florida representatives from both parties. It's always bipartisan, to exempt cigars from the rules that are placed on cigarettes. One of the big issues right now is banning flavored cigarettes. So I believe all flavored cigarettes except menthol have been banned, and there's bills being put forward to ban menthol cigarettes. The theory is that's what gets kids hooked on tobacco. And so this would also then reach into cigars and apply to that. So all of our coffee flavored or blueberry flavored cigars that are so popular would then become illegal.
Now, neither John or I are a fan of flavored cigars, but they are very popular. And we're not talking about the cheap cigars you get at the convenience store, which we're not fans of either, and are smoked by kids and shouldn't be. And cigarettes shouldn't be smoked by kids. We're not fans of cigarettes here, but not all tobacco is created equal or used equally. And the health risks for cigars, I'm not going to go into it, and tobacco are proven to be far, far, far less. Even the FDA says the health risks if you smoke 2 cigars or less a day and don't inhale are negligible. That's the FDA. Well, the fact is the average cigar smoker in America smokes 1.3 cigars a month. So it's a very casual, relaxing enterprise. It's not, you don't get hooked on the nicotine. You don't see cigar smokers in the middle of winter standing outside because they've got to have their fix. It's much different. That being said, we think it should be handled differently. And there are a lot of people in America who believe that as well. You don't see high school kids running around with premium $15 cigars, and you can't even get them very easily. And really, they should be exempt from the same, they shouldn't all be lumped together. And so, hopefully, and again, what Drew Estate does with infusing cigars, and again, acid cigars are hugely popular, and they're a fine hand-rolled cigar. Even our Tatianas that we kind of make fun of, Groovy Blues, very popular here, and it really is a good hand-rolled cigar. I just happen to like the flavor of tobacco as opposed to an infused tobacco product. But the fact is, they should be exempt, and they really shouldn't be all lumped together with cigarettes and all other tobacco products, which again have been certainly proven to be quite harmful. And we're not advocates for cigarettes. But again, for the occasional cigar user, not a bad thing to be able to relax on occasion with a cigar. So we'd like the government to, well, take a break, step out of our cigar world, and let us enjoy our refined relaxation. Again, let's keep government regulation out of our world as much as we can. And I think it will be a good thing for the industry in itself. Taxes are another issue, and trying to increase taxes. There have been a bill every year I've been in Nebraska, or every other year. The legislature goes in 2-year cycles to increase the tobacco tax, and frankly, that doesn't work. The advocates, it doesn't make sense, because you raise the tax so that people will not want to pay it and they'll stop buying it. Well, then you're not going to get any tax. And in fact, the opposite is true. Another state capped their cigar tax at 50 cents a cigar, and actually saw their revenue from cigar tax increase by millions of dollars, because guess what? Lower taxes, lower prices, people weren't buying their cigars online. And that's why online cigars are cheaper, because you don't pay the excise tax. We pay 20% here in Nebraska. So think about it. If I pay $5 for a cigar, I have to pay another $1 to the state of Nebraska just to bring it into the state. We pass that cost on to you. And that's a part of the total price. They pay the S-chip tax when they import the cigars into the United States. So when I pay $5, a good $1 of that is already taxed. Another $1 on top of that for Nebraska. Then that gets to be a part of the sale price, and you pay sales tax on top of that as well. So it's tax on tax on tax.
Yeah, and they had just recently, California increased their cigar tax to 67%.
Yep.
So if that kind of followed suit through the rest of the country, the rest of the states, if Nebraska did that, your average $10 cigar would be $12, $13 here.
Yeah, because it would increase, again, if I pay $5, 60% is going to be $3 on a $5 cigar. So if it's a $5 cigar, it's $8 cost to me, because I would have to pay that. Or to the California retail, it's an $8 cigar right off the top, and then you have to raise the price from there. And again, without having to pay those excise taxes, you have to pay sales tax for online sales now, but you don't pay the excise taxes. And there are some states that have taxes as high as 90%, or I think there's one even 92% on premium cigars. So it really makes it tough for brick and mortar stores and for consumers who are paying a lot for what ought to be a pretty enjoyable and affordable luxury. So taxes are not the answer. It is just going to, the state is not going to generate the revenue from it. They'll do better by capping that tax and increasing sales, and thus the tax revenue. So that's been shown in states that have done it. So let's hope for some good common sense to be done there. And I'm grateful that Nebraska has held the line. And while I don't like the 20%, it's one of the lower taxes across the United States, and I'll take it at this point. So that's a little bit of discussion about some of the hot topics with our government and taxes and tobacco and alcohol, all those kinds of things. And I thought you might enjoy just a little bit of discussion for that as we get talking about America here for the 4th of July. And still the best country there is. We celebrate America and want you to do so with a cigar. Taxed or not, still worth enjoying. Enjoy your 4th of July. Have a great holiday. May it be filled with refined relaxation. So on behalf of John, Sandra, all of us here at Full Cigar Lounge, happy 4th. Cheers, John.